county, including the new board member trainings multiple times. You don't need to go every year for 6 years. There's a lot of other more advanced meetings going on at the county as well, and they're not all formal meetings. There's also informal dialogue, and that's an important relationship. One of the ways that you end the divide is with providing clear transparency and actual factual information. And we have way too much misinformation swirling around campaigns, not only this season, but the last season. So we're fostering a divide in the middle of our campaign season. It's not just happening locally, it's happening nationally. The other thing that we need to do to end the divide on allocation of resources is keep all the classes well funded at both schools. We've made some real strides in the last couple of years with Bayside MLK. We did it in a totally irresponsible way. We deficit spent when we didn't have to. We can correct that without taking it out of either school. We can also, over time, bring the schools together. And the charter can actually accept all local demand. There are ways to work through that process. You can sit down, work with your charter, because they're protected by laws as well. We can't just say, we're going to close the charter. Can't do it. But we can work through a collaborative process. And it doesn't mean we end up in a charter, a dependent charter or an independent charter. But by bringing everybody together, we start to mend fences and close the divide. I wish I had 10 more minutes on this, but I know I don't.
So this is a question I've been thinking about, because honestly it sort of breaks my heart as I drive around Sausalito and Marine City and see signs for both teams, as it were. And I'm sitting here on the stage going, where is it that we disagree? We all seem to agree that we want one school. We all seem to get it that it's going to take time to get there. I have no clue, based on what's been discussed, how the one school idea is going to happen. And I think everybody says that because it's going to be kind of complicated, right? We're going to have to sit down. There are statutory issues with the government code. There are space issues. There are a whole lot of things, but I have no clue what the vision is. And so the reality is we're actually going to have to talk with each other. And I staff a number of committees that have a lot of lawyers. And my guess that you could imagine that sometimes lawyers disagree and they have different perspectives and they will speak them strongly. But we try very hard at the state level to get perspectives from across the board, from different people, from different communities, because that's the best way to make decisions. You don't make them by having a single perspective if you're trying to deal with the entire community. And I will promise you, in 21 years, I have never had a proposal that was not improved by having that variety of perspectives and that variety of viewpoints. And it's not always easy. I spend a lot of time trying to be creative, trying to say, what is our commonality? What is it that we're trying to achieve? I don't hear anybody in this group saying we don't care about low-income kids of color. I think we're all saying that is the critical issue. And I honestly don't hear that we're coming up with a lot of different solutions. I think we're all saying that we need to sit down and try and work together to come up with these solutions. And the question is, can we do that as a group that represents a variety of perspectives so that we can hear from all the parents in the district, we can hear from all the constituencies, so that we can come up with the best possible solution that will work for everybody.
Thank you, Monty. Well, wow, that was great. You guys are amazing. And I'll tell you one thing that I've kind of picked up here in the Cruising Club is that, you know, whether you make it onto the school board or not, if you're an interested party, you have a voice, you go to the meeting and you say something, you're going to make a difference. And one of you mentioned, which I thought was probably the best idea I've heard through this, we've done 3 of these here, I think, at this point, was that having a meeting place for you all to get together outside of the actual district board meeting is going to be the way that you can actually get on the same plane and make a difference. That was really, really the right path to go down. Listening to the questions, I think the audience will agree. We are all on the same page. I'm a part of it too, and I agree. I think there's a lot of positive here. I think you guys are all amazing. We're going to go to the audience now and take some questions. So, does the audience have any questions?
Yeah.
Sir.
Hi, thank you for the discussion. I have a question.
Maybe I can repeat it if it's not too complicated.
It's coming. I can talk loudly. We live in a representational and representative democracy. And what I heard, which disappoints me, is from the three candidates on the same ticket, as they've used the words all in one direction, common vision, common direction, commonly we want to end divisiveness. And these I know because I've heard the other discussion are talking points, and they're good talking points. But as Bonnie said, that's not serving two communities. We need varieties of opinion, varieties of idea, varieties of leadership, because otherwise we just need one person. So I feel that having three candidates without any of these diversity is a bad idea.
So are we all answering this question, or?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
What was the question?
The question is, how can we justify having then four board members, the one on the board already and three new, all from the same representation of Willow Creek parents?
So I have to say that when you stood up, I thought you were going to say that everyone here would be able to get free membership here at the Cruising Club. That is cool. But then you went on to something else. I can't answer that question, quite frankly. I do know that I have sat on the board for a number of years with members who have representation at Willow Creek. Our president, Carolyn, Tom, and I even got to sit with Bill Ziegler. And I can say that when it comes down to governing and looking at some of the tough issues, sometimes within our closed sessions, there are times when we didn't always agree to disagree. And so I can't speak for them. I can just speak for myself and say that I love the idea of multiple perspectives and working with a diverse team. And I think for Bonnie and myself, that's really kind of our lens. And so with that, I do believe that intentions are great, but I believe we also owe it to the 94965 constituency.
I think you mentioned something about a representative democracy. So in our district, of the total population of students, nearly 80% of those students do attend Willow Creek. So it's highly likely that at least 3 board members would be parents of Willow Creek, since across the country, most board members are full of parents. Parent is a credential in a school board situation. So I think regarding representation, we're not out of any alignment there. But the shared vision part of that's fundamental. So we each have very different experience. If you're speaking about Kurt and Josh and I, we come from different backgrounds. Josh and I live in Marin City. Kurt lives in Sausalito. Josh is born and raised in the area. Kurt and I from different parts of the country. We have different work experience, different strengths. So we will bring a great amount of diversity of perspective to this board, but we are aligned on a fundamental level that has actually caused the board not to be functioning. And that is, are we responsible for some of the kids, 25% in our district, or are we responsible for all of the kids in the district? The alignment is at that level. It's that we are responsible for all of the kids in the district, and that we need to prioritize our resources and our energy and our efforts based on the ones that need it most. So that's the alignment.
I just want to echo, being a parent does not exclude you from being a board member. I've seen that argument a lot of places, and I know that it's not the intention of your question, but I want to address it. My son just left with my wife. He's almost 4 months old, and I will I will not have a kid in the district if I win this election and I'm served for 4 years. He will still not be in the district when I end that term. But the only thing I can promise you if I am elected is that I will run for re-election. And the only thing I can promise you is that if I'm elected again, I will run for re-election. I will keep running for a board seat as long as you guys think I'm doing a good job as a board member. My kid will eventually get into school. And I think that being a parent and having your kid in public schools is rad. That's why I want to make sure that we have a public school and that we are all proud of it. The idea that, actually something Josh said at our last forum that I thought was one of the best phrases of the entire night at our last forum was, we all agree on why we're here. We all agree on why we're doing this. We agree that 100% of the kids matter. We disagree largely on how to ensure that all kids feel like they matter and how to deliver the best education to all of these kids. That's where we start to disagree. But the question about running as a combined slate is that three candidates, Jen, Josh, and Kurt, all seem to agree also on how to get this done. And that can be viewed as an immense positive because it's just going to accelerate the process, or it can be viewed as an immense negative because with the election, we're like voting for an outcome that hasn't been clearly and transparently defined in detail.
Not surprisingly, I disagree with that. We're not voting for a specific outcome. We're voting for, as I've said, really a philosophy on scope of governance and a philosophy on a high level, not a specific outcome, but a high level concept of let's bring everybody together. As Jen stated, our team of three, if you will, comes from very different perspectives. Two of us live in Marin City. I'm mixed race. We all grew up very differently. We all have very different skills. It is the job of any elected board to come together around a vision. And to the extent that candidates can do that work in advance of even running, at a high level, and then engage their community to refine it and move a process forward, that is a positive. Having sat on a board for 6 years, which on some level reinvents itself every 2 years with an election, going through a learning curve of who are the other board members, how do you see things, let's start from scratch to generate that shared vision. It hasn't worked for at least 6 years and probably a lot longer before I sat on the board. Coming together, hitting the ground running, 10 years of experience running a local school, 3 years of experience as a super engaged parent going to every school board meeting, running the PTA, 6 years of experience on the board, many more years of experience in this community. That's a positive. Being a parent is a positive. I would love to be joined by a Bayside MLK parent. We don't have a Bayside MLK parent running. Maybe we will in 4 or 5 years. I don't know. But these are good people. Everybody here is a good person. But there are very different views, and there's a very different level of experience. And I really hope we bring an experienced team in that can finally move the ball forward.
So I think the challenge has been that when we've had districts that have been composed of charter school parents, decisions have been made that have not been in the best interests of both schools. And that has caused enormous challenges and potential legal challenges, and I remain concerned about how we move forward. I do think that variety and vision is important, and Josh, I just think that there is real benefit in taking ownership as the president of the board of trying to pull that together. And I know it's incredibly difficult, and I know that you've had an incredibly difficult time with the two recusals. But truly, coming together with a vision, I'm sorry, but I still don't get it. I hear you say that you want the school to remain in place, with David there for 8 or 10 years. I don't get how this is all going to happen. So I understand that you're all focused on, being supportive of all the kids. I don't see a difference there. I think I hear Ida, I hear Nathan, I think all of us are concerned with all the kids in the district. And I think the challenge is, the reason I chose to run with Ida is because I thought we needed that diversity. I think that you need the social worker, that person who's intensely tied with the community, who works with those kids on an absolutely day-to-day basis. And then I think you need sort of a fresh face of somebody who comes in with a lot of experience building consensus. And honestly, I think you need a lawyer on this board. We have so many lawsuits. We spend an awful lot of money on legal fees. And I think that it would be helpful to have some sort of perspective and an outside perspective that's focused on building consensus among the board members. And I don't think that there is that significant a difference. I think that we need to be looking forward to a situation where all the kids in the district thrive. And as I say, I think we all want to get there, and the question is, can we do that most effectively? How do we do that without having more voices, without having more perspective, without leaving the kids who are the parents who are associated with Bayside MLK behind when we have 4 members who are Willow Creek parents? I agree with you, it'd be great to have an MLK person, but I think the reality is we need to have more diversity. We need to solve this problem. It is much bigger than one set of one school solution.
So I think it is critical to have a shared vision. In fact, that is the primary job of a board, is to develop a shared vision, very democratically. And I think it is important to do that as fast as possible, because we don't have a lot of time for on-the-job training. We have an obligation from the county to have a revised budget by the end of February that balances the budget any way possible. We have a plan to balance that budget by not taking any money out of the classroom. And in fact, there's the potential to put more money in the classroom at Bayside MLK, and if needed, at Willow Creek. So I think it is important to understand, if you are looking at the 3 of us, because we're as the Willow Creek slate, because our kids go to Willow Creek. Yeah, our kids go to school. Where 80% of the kids go to school. If you start there and stop there, as understanding what we believe, what we understand, and the impact that we can have, I think you're doing a real disservice to yourself, and I think you're doing a disservice to this community. And it is a lot of the wrangling and challenges that you have, even in talking through building a team to be on a board. It's not easy to have those conversations. There is a lot of difference and discord that you have, but if you have a common belief, it allows you to cut through a lot of the problems to, for example, the district board today cannot agree on what students it serves. That is a true statement. So we may all feel like that's a done deal. It's not a done deal. And there is a person on the board today who believes the exact opposite of what the 3 of us are saying. And that person does believe that 25% of the kids are 100% of the responsibility. And that's a problem. And so I think it's important for us to have a functioning board with a similar vision and different perspectives that has the experience to hit the ground running so we can solve some short-term problems and then open up the discussion for long-term solutions.
Thank you, Craig.
Excuse me, before we move on, can I get some water?
Some water, yeah.
Time check, stand up and stretch.
I know.
I know. No, I brought.